Hi everyone. This is the first episode of Corpus Guides 2022 year. I hope all of you had a very happy new year. We all know the conditions that we are all going through across the globe with COVID, but we all believe that we are almost at the end. As I always mention, Compass Guide has always tried to bring in sessions, videos with leaders, with people who can guide you in your own journey. And as I always request, please do subscribe to our channel and spread the word among your friends, peers. They might get help from us. Now today, I thought it's a very important, as it is the first one, the first episode for 2022. I thought I should bring in someone which was very, currently the condition in which Canada's immigration is going on. It's very important to look into someone who can guide us to say if somebody is coming into this country as a student, and then how success means in Canada. And I am really privileged and honored to have with me today Shomak Chatterjee. Shomak is a friend, but Shomak is also the financial services lead and partner with Deloitte in Canada. Shomak came into this country roughly about 14 years back as an international student into an MBA program. And in the last 14 years, 12 years in his career in Canada, has been very successful and is and as a partner in Deloitte for the last couple of years. Without really taking more time, let me bring Shomak in. Shomak, welcome and thank you for giving time to Compass Guide.
Sandeep, it's a very privilege to be here. I've been following you and your work with Compass for a while now. One of my passions, frankly, and like something I love a lot is helping students in particular who have made similar choices as I have, like through my relationships with the University of Toronto, the Rotten School of Management, over the past years. So, like tremendously happy to be here. Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to all your viewers. We're obviously living in a very different day and age these days with the crisis. But one thing I can say is I graduated in the last crisis. So I think like that is a very like as I think back to the days when I was new in the country, I think there is some very important lessons that we all should possibly heed quite a bit.
No, and it reminds me, Shomak, I actually moved into this country in that last crisis.
Right.
I immigrated in 2008, just a month before the financial meltdown happened. So I think it's just a matter of time that we are going to be out of this and move into a normal life. Now, Shomak, I thought we will divide this whole session into three parts. Obviously, I want you to give the viewers a little bit about your journey at first, in terms of how and where and how you landed in Canada. What was what was your journey like, and in the last 14 years, if you could talk about that first, and then we will get into the questions that I have for you.
Yeah, so walk down the history lane almost. So I would say my journey hasn't been linear. I think some like while there haven't been like I've essentially like studied in one place and worked for one institution, but I think the journey in the country, like coming as a student first, and then like working through my journey with Deloitte in particular, like I have learned a bunch of things that in hindsight, if I go back and live this again, like I would feel I might even have done it slightly differently. So I landed in this country. Seems like we landed almost at the same time. So I landed in the country August of 2008. I had left a particularly happy and lucrative job back home. I was working at that point back home. Home is India. In PricewaterhouseCoopers. I had been there for close to 4 years, and I'm a engineer by education, having graduated from one of the biggest universities back in India, and that in itself was a significant leap. And why I did it was mostly because of my desire to do something different, to advance my career into management consulting in particular, also to experience a different business environment, understand what working and living in North America could be like. So I landed in the country in August 2008. I joined the full-time MBA class at the Rotman School of Management. Graduated from Rotman in 2010. I had the privilege of getting selected for my internship. Rotman full-time MBA, as you might know, is a 2-year program. So there was an opportunity to get an internship in the first year. At the end of the first year in 2009. So that is a story in itself. Given the economic scenario in 2009, I actually think I was quite lucky to get into Deloitte at that point. And I loved everything about the firm. Loved the culture, loved the people, loved the work I did. And there were opportunities like opening up when I was starting to graduate in 2010. But I decided to go with my heart and accept the offer to join Deloitte back. And then through the years, I've grown through Deloitte, having worked in a variety of industries. But the last 7-8 years has been mostly concentrated in financial services. I made partner at Deloitte in 2018. And have been doing work in financial services around the payments industry in particular. And I also now have a couple of leadership roles managing our consulting business in a couple of our large accounts, like one of them being a large bank in Canada. So that's roughly what the journey has been.
No, very, 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 very impressive journey, and a big risk that you took at that point of time. I think that's one piece that all immigrants, whether they're coming in to do postgraduate or they're coming in as an immigrant, I think the biggest piece is all of them are probably coming in from a very successful job, a successful, happy career back home, whatever is home, and then trying to come in and take that risk. So congratulations to you. You have done fantabulously well for yourself and for the community. Bringing into the first question, Shomak, that I have for you, exactly from your own journey and whatever you have seen in the last 14 years, as well as your work with Rotman currently, which you do to help international students. What would be a couple of tips that you would have for people who are trying to come into this country as a postgraduate student? What are the few things that you think they should, acquire as a skill? And if they don't have it, then they should make sure that they acquire. And if they have it, then how they need to or should practice it more. What would be those 2 or 3 things as a postgraduate student who is coming into this country?
Yeah, let me actually start with a story. I think that might be useful in context, because I think that will underlying start to understand what happens when you go here. So I'll take you back to, I'm going to say, like roughly February, March of 2010. I was about 4 months from graduation. And I got a call from the University of Toronto finance office, actually, letting me know that I had a significant amount of tuition still unpaid. And like, unless I could manage to pay that tuition in the next 2 months, like they were essentially letting me know that I wouldn't be able to graduate. So I take you back to that time because there is a story behind that pretty critical call. My response to that call was to go and meet the wonderful human being who managed like finance at that point. And I told her my story. And I told her that I'd come to this country pretty much with a lot of support from my parents, having given their life savings to be able to get me to this country. I'd saved my own money. I'd borrowed some money from my sister. Like I had also had tons of support from my wife. Like we weren't married at that point, who had also done a lot to keep me in that country. But the economic environment was tough. Getting additional educational financing, even on approved educational loans, were being revoked. So it had left me in a condition after the first year where I didn't have access to the monies that I thought I would when I first decided to come. Uh, so in the face of that adversity, what I did was, through my internship and through most of my second year, I was continuing a full-time, pretty tedious MBA program, while doing, in essence, like 3 to 4 jobs. I was continuing to work at Deloitte under what the government used to call the off-campus work permit, which allows you up to 20 hours of work a week. At that point, I did a variety of work at the school, doing like teachers assistants, research assistant work. So my days were pretty tough because you're essentially working 3 jobs and doing part-time work at Deloitte and studying at the same time, which in hindsight probably wasn't the way I had planned it out. Now that wonderful human being from finance, like essentially after hearing my story and what I was going through at that time, decided to figure out ways to help me such that I could graduate, and for that I'm like forever thankful. But my point of that story is like 2 main things. One is, know that things always will not go to plan. So you need to have contingencies, buffers, financial flexibility, like whatever you call it, because otherwise it gets really stressful, especially when you are in a country where I didn't have any family here. And a lot of the students who come here to study are actually like me at that point. Like they wouldn't have a lot of family support out here. So plan for adversity and know that things will not go to plan as you had etched out. I think going back, if I take myself back, I would have possibly planned better. Well, I couldn't predict that a whole bunch of big banks in the world would go down and the economic environment would turn so fast. But that's my first point. Like, plan well and have the ability to manage adversity, knowing that they will happen. Hopefully it's not as significant as mine was at that time, but plan for it. So that's one. I also think you need to actually know what you want to do. And every personal circumstance is different. Like some people do postgraduate education in Canada because they look at it as a way to immigrate to Canada and come to the country, education not being the primary motive. It is possibly a way for folks to have an ability through the visa process, through the immigration process, a way where they can build some skills, but also a way in where traditional programs like immigrating on the family class wouldn't work for their personal circumstance, and there's nothing wrong with that. That is a very, very valid way to look at this. For others, where I would say some of me, I wanted to come here because I wanted to make a shift in my career. I wanted to do something different. I wanted to experience how businesses work in this country, in this part of the world. So your personal situation is going to dictate what your choice of schools could look like. And I say this in a little bit of a way to make sure our students back in any country in particular, but if I specifically speak about India, there is a lot of misinformation. And there is a lot of misinformation even when you attend job expos and school expos in very reputable places in some Indian cities, where there are schools which are good for certain things. You have to do your own research to know which schools are good. I did an MBA, even in the MBA school circle, each school has differences. Rotman prides itself on a certain set of things, academic brilliance, being close to the financial center, having the right networks, and just closeness to Bay Street. Ivy boasts of a tremendous alumni network. Queen's boasts of a fantastic undergraduate business program, as an example. so there are the big schools, and then there are the smaller schools, then there are the regional schools. Spend a lot of time doing independent research, and if possible, talk to people who are in the country who know it, versus only talking to some admission counselors or companies in India who for certain vested interests are often inclined to provide you the advice that benefits them versus you. So I think like that is a cautionary tale, because I've heard some of these stories of people coming in not knowing what they were getting into. So that's number two. I would say the third one is start creating friendships, knowing your class, understanding who is traveling with you as part of the same cohort, and start it earlier than you land. It is going to take you time because the culture is different. Everything from housing, transit, groceries, living your life, every dimension of your life is going to change. And depending on your personal circumstances, how much friends, family you have in this country, you might undergo a significant level of change without a lot of support in this place, which I had to deal with, which was hard. Like to some extent, like having Deepa at that time here, like helped, like cushion the change to a certain degree, but it wasn't easy. So the more you can get prepared, the more you have a network before you arrive of people, like maybe through your programs, and you have a network of mentors who I know help get people settled. I think that's a big part. I'll end with saying, after you land, once you've figured out the place, remind yourself constantly what you're here for. You left a good life. You are spending possibly material amounts of money, and you came here for a purpose. Like, don't forget that. And often young students coming into the country, there is enough distractions and temptations here, like that you have to deal with. And there's actually not a lot of supervision that you have when you are by yourself at that age. So I think the determination, the commitment has to be there, and you often have to remind yourself that, like, I have a reason that I came here, and I need to make the right decisions at a certain points of time to see it through. So I would just keep it at those like 3 or 4 points.
No, those are all very, very important and very to the point, Shomak, and especially the last one, right? Because at the end of it, it's always very important to keep on checking why am I here?
Right.
What exactly is my goal? The second question that I have for you, Shomak, is just, the second part of your journey, right? So your first part was your student journey. The second part is your work journey. But you also did work in a similar kind of an environment in consulting services back home. You were there for 4 years, so it's not a small amount of time. Now, my second question to you would be that what would be 2 or 3 things that you'd like people to tell, that from a workspace area, from a career progression, what are the few things that you need to keep in mind while you're working in a North American workspace, and how are they different? What are the few three things which are very different, and you need to be cognizant of the fact that you keep a tab on all of them to be successful?
Yeah, like maybe I'll pick up on the point that you just mentioned. Like, yes, in like when you look at my 4 years or 3.5 years of consulting work in a big 4 Indian consulting company, PricewaterhouseCoopers, I thought I knew it all. I thought the type of work I did was going to translate really well, and it was going to make my journey into management consulting like swimmingly easy. I couldn't have been more wrong. And part of the reason is that the type of work that traditionally Indian, especially IT outsourcing consulting companies do, are different than the type of work consulting companies in North America do. And the reason is a lot of the work that actually the Indian companies do are outsourced from this part of the world. So yes, I think my time with PricewaterhouseCoopers was beneficial from the point of view that it taught me some core skills around what client service means. right? Like there are some basics of a client service career that are pretty evident and pretty similar in either market. So understanding serving versus being in industry, I think, was a valuable part. But I would not overestimate, because the environment and the cultural aspect and the way work gets done and the type of work that companies here do and the way they do it can be quite different than what globally happens. And for people who have actually have global careers before they get into Canada, they're possibly a bit more experienced at this. And while I had served international clients, my location of work was still predominantly India. So I felt that the shift was a bit higher. So I would say that that's the first point. Like, acknowledge that even if you come in an industry like Sandeep, you have worked in FMCG, you've worked in banking, and you would possibly have like similar feedback from your time there versus now your role leading international at HSBC. The constructs, while similar, are still enough different. So I would say that's the first thing. One of the things which I found successful for myself is diversifying your network and friendships beyond your immediate community, right? So the immediate community is very helpful. I'm not going to say that it's not. Like, you need to have roots of people who are similar to you, have grown up in the same culture. That's a big part. But if your life revolves around just that community, I think it's hard for you to integrate into like the Canadian business environment at large. I had a hard time, as an example, in my early days, even finding references of what my business colleagues were talking about, because I had never seen hockey played on ice. I had no clue about the stars that dominated the music landscape in Canada and North America. To an extent, I didn't even know which superstores were actually high end versus mass market. So the cultural part is very distinctly different, and Rotman helped because it was a very diverse class. It did allow me to make friends with folks, not only folks who are native Canadians or like folks who've grown up in Canada, I mean, and the US, but it did pull together a global student base, which did help to a certain extent make it easy for me. But my point to like folks who are in this situation looking at their career, it is incredibly important to have a network and have friendships with people who are just not from your community. So I would say that's my second one. The third one, possibly more important when you're searching for jobs or you're searching for a career change, you need to know how to market yourself. And especially folks, and I'll again say that my experience is from a South Asian descent, so other countries might have a different flavor of this. But I have felt, especially folks who come from the Indian diaspora, aren't used to doing that and are quite uncomfortable of marketing yourself as the product. I had this challenge when I came here. I found it very hard to say three things good about myself. And I thought I have done quite a bit in my career, and like I've learned quite a bit. I've had quite a like successful, diverse experience even in my 4 years back in India. But like, it took me time to get used to how to putting yourself out there, understanding how to market yourself as the products. Difference isn't bad. You should accept that you're going to be different. I think there's nothing wrong with it. I think you should be actually proud that you're different. But the part that differs from people who are like, there are people who get comfortable with being different, capitalizing on the strengths that you bring while integrating yourself into the culture appropriately. Knowing how to make your difference a strength versus constantly going and thinking in your head that there's some problem and you're always going to be a victim of this debate around diversity. you would see once you get like used to the culture here that there are a lot of mentors and there is a lot of good work happening in the space right now. But even coming up through the ranks of Deloitte, frankly, I had so many sponsors and supporters from every manner of the organization who have invested in me, who have helped me grow, who have helped me succeed, and frankly, I haven't felt like anything that got in my way just because I was different. Make difference is strength. Make it into a positive thing versus going into this vortex of thinking it is, while knowing that it is going to be harder for you. And that's not because of anything else. It's just because you don't know this country, and you will need to have a curve that is faster than anyone else. So in your mind, know that you're going to have to work 20% harder than anyone else. I think those are the few points beyond just doing good work and having the commitment and the determination and the drive that makes people successful, that I think immigrants can specifically benefit from.
No, and I think the last point that you just put in, right, that you need to sell yourself. You need to understand that it's important that you market yourself, because if you don't market yourself, nobody else is going to come and market it for you. And the other piece is that you accept who you are, but use that as a positive side, knowing and planning for it, that you need to probably put 20% more. Very
Right.
very important, I think, points. The last question, Shomak, for you, and I know that a lot of people who are going to watch this are going to look for that question, and I thought that I'll put that in, which is, so many new immigrants coming in from different parts of the world, so many new postgraduate students coming out. Consulting practices must be a big piece. It's a huge piece in this part of the world, right? All the big fives are there; they're huge. What would you tell to somebody who is looking at consulting practice as a potential career space? What would be those one or two things that you tell them to work on to prepare themselves to make that move?
Yeah, no, I think it's a great question. So if you walk the halls of pretty much any MBA school in particular, consulting and investment banking, financial services, sales and trading often dominate as careers of choice, and that is mostly the case because these are one, jobs that by definition are going to be competitive. It is going to be hard. It is a hard industry. Like consulting in particular is a hard industry due to a few facets. I think like one, client service. That is a big dimension to it. You are helping your clients essentially in their most important moments in their institutions and their own journeys succeed. You are brought in for specific expertise for which you charge them a lot of money. So they expect results and they expect quality outcome and they expect service. Frankly, not different to what you would expect when you like hire any service provider to do any work for you. And I think if you put yourself in the mind of your client, it's often easy to understand what it is. So I think it's an industry that actually breeds quality and client service at the heart of like everything you learn and you do. So I think like that's a good point to kind of anchor thinking around. It can be a very satisfying career. It can be a very satisfying career, both from the nature of work you do, from the perspective of like over the longer term, making wealth. So there is definitely a few things that I have personally seen like separate the ones that truly become successful versus others who might through the journey feel that their capabilities and skills are probably better served in other industries. And like I would rank three things in particular that I call out quite a bit when I speak to like my team, the folks who join the firm. from campuses, from other jobs. I think I start with the point that you need to be intellectually curious. You need to naturally have a bit of curiosity that allows you to be in the know. And as the world changes, I think industry specification expertise has become more and more important in our part of the business. Being curious about what's happening in financial services for me, beyond just what at the project I'm working on or the two things I have done. I think you need to be aware of what's happening macroeconomically, what's happening around globalization, like what is happening around monetary policy. Where are the different banks in the country? How are they positioned? What are their strategies? Just the breadth, the part of your life that deals with breadth, and just being inquisitive and curious about things even in your space, is going to be very beneficial. So I would say start with that. Like if you have intellectual curiosity, if you feel you're a human who looks at things and like starts to think, okay, like why did Loblaw suddenly give me a 20x points in my weekend like grocery run? If you ever find yourself asking that question rather than just moving on, I think that's a good part to start understanding some of it. So I put that as number one on my list. Number two, I would say, is mastery of the craft. Like really knowing what you're doing, being good at it, having the confidence to stand behind your opinion and your belief, listening, understanding from the shoes of your client, understanding what specific outcomes they are trying to achieve. All of that lead to mastery of the craft. And while you might, like there are other softer skills which are also very important, like knowing how to communicate well, knowing how to build relationships over time, knowing how to grow your team, grow talent. I have found like being really good at what you do and having the confidence and trust of your clients has served me personally really well through my journey. And I would leave like one final one, which is often unsaid, but consulting is a people business. Our product are mostly people. Yes, there are some assets, some products which many companies have, but predominantly, if you look at consulting as an industry, it is a very human business. It is a business that creates leaders. It is a business that creates humans of an intellectual bar that is higher than possibly any other industry for that note. And that is the reason we can charge the margins and the profits that we create for the business. In that environment, you need leaders who can lead with empathy. Like you need leaders who believe that it is important to put your people first versus always putting your profits first. And I think that is the part, frankly, I've been very proud of Deloitte like over the last few years, where the firm has explicitly focused on caring about the people, like living our everyday behaviors, which make us more human, practicing empathy in our conversations. We are going through a phase of extraordinary growth. But that extraordinary growth is coming from extreme stress on people, especially when you factor in what is going on in our lives right now.
Right.
Which is where this notion of like talent, like the great resignation, like all these points come up. But foundationally, you need to balance the need to make profits with the need to take care of your people and your team. So I would say leading with empathy and having compassion makes great leaders in consulting. So like that's a life skill that I have tried to learn. I continue to learn, and like there is lots, like I can personally do lots that the firm continues to do, which I think will possibly be the most important point here.
Oh, great points, Shomak. Great points, and And I think it's important, and whoever is going to listen to this is going to really get a lot of order to really make their journey wherever they are, as an international student or as somebody who is just trying to get into the Canadian career, Canadian marketplace and corporate world, or specifically looking at consulting practice. So thank you so very much, Shomak, for your time. And I'm sure that whoever our audience are going to see this as a golden opportunity for them to get insights. And I'm sure, if some of them would probably try to reach out to you through LinkedIn and others, it generally happens. And as I tell everyone that if you need to reach out to me or any of the speakers, any of the panelists, please do feel free to reach out. But definitely do not forget to subscribe to Compass Guide and spread the word. Thank you so very much for watching today's episode, and thank you, Shomak, again for being here and giving your time. And thank you. And thanks to everyone. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Sandeep. Bye bye.